Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to That's a Take. I am your host, Bruce James Bales. On this episode, we get to hear from a filmmaker who has always been a great motivator for me and many others, a person who really pushes to be better all the time, and someone who I have a great deal of respect for, Cole Needham. Cole Needham is a filmmaker born and raised in rural Iowa. Now based in Los Angeles, his career consists of directing, screenwriting, and producing projects that make the regular feel super. His projects have featured Pharrell Williams, Rampage Jackson, Ferrari, and more. He is currently in production on his debut feature-length projects, which have raw and action-packed subjects. Outside of filmmaking, you'll find him racing motocross and chasing adrenaline throughout Southern California. Cole's tenacious. He goes after what he wants, he tells the stories that are interesting to him, and I personally think we need more people like that in this industry. I think for me, he represents an intelligent, blue-collar approach. He does the work, he's not afraid of it, and then he lets the work speak for him. Our conversation revolves around balance, embracing the difficult and unseen work that leads to growth, and Cole's newest filmmaking ventures. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Cole Needham. Drinking some iced coffee out of like a goblet? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, dude.
That's
the
sick.
fanciest only.
That's a cool glass. Hey, dude, you've already impressed me. Don't worry. I was thinking about that today. Like, I was like, where did I meet Cole? And it's like, it was fucking Butch Lawson, dude.
So I was
you
thinking
impressed
about
me
that.
with that.
I was thinking about where I met you as well. And I had this funny, Gabe Tejeda, right?
Yeah.
So I had met Gabe like right as soon as I graduated high school and did 48 Hour like a few months after. But he pointed you out in the crowd and he was like, that guy, he's really good.
Oh, God.
Watch out for that guy.
Watch out
for
that guy.
But he didn't say that. But he said it was one of those moments like, oh, that dude, he's a good filmmaker. Like, watch out. So
Yeah.
it was that was I saw you at like the talent drawing or like the genre drawing.
Oh, interesting.
And then I don't know where we actually met. Like where we said, would we just say hey at the screenings and stuff?
I think I talked to you after for like a minute because I honestly was genuinely like, I need to know who made this movie. Because there was like some handheld work in it and like wide lens stuff. And I was like, nobody's doing this. This is like, well, who is this, And just like the edit was nice. And it was like, you had horses and a bar and like probably like 20 people in your 48 total, like, or 15-ish, like total.
Yeah, there's like anybody in my call log I threw in that thing.
Yeah, it was like, and then someone was like, yeah, he's 18. And I was like, what? And then I think we actually like really met on that series.
That's what I was saying. That's where I think we had conversation.
Yeah, because I kind of just I kind of like weaseled my way onto Grip and Electric on that one. And then, yeah, the rest is history.
I did the same with camera.
Yeah.
I showed up and met you.
Yeah, which is a
long time ago.
Great theme for what we're talking about today. You showed up and you started working, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I recall, I showed up not having a position on that. They're like, just show up. I was like, okay, I'll show up, and just found my way in the mix. But
I mean, that's half the battle is showing up. Yeah.
Yeah. Or finding out where to show up to.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you guys working so I can show up? If it was like that. So after that series, like you were only around for like a little while, right? And then you were LA bound, right?
Yeah. So I think I was in Iowa for like 2 years after high school, a little less than 2 years. But yeah, I worked on the first round of that, like development of that series. And then I did some like House Hunters HGTV stuff. And then the Verizon Go 90 that came through for that summer.
Was that play-by-play?
Play-by-play and then embeds.
Embeds, yeah.
But yeah, I moved to LA right away in 2018. That was the plan. I was going to go to film school, but just couldn't afford it.
Yeah. And you guys, like, it was a group of you kind of went out there at once, right?
It was. There's a group of a total of 5 of us in a house jam-packed in this thing. Like, I literally lived in the attic.
Man, and we're not going to focus on that, but, like, I'm interested in that notion of you guys, like, one thing that I think from my perspective that I've always appreciated about your move out there is like, I always knew you'd make it work. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there's some people that like move out there and you're like, oh, we'll see how they do. But it was like, oh yeah, Cole, find a way, And that's kind of like why I wanted to talk to you on the pod too, is like, you're always finding a way, which is awesome because the industry's tough, right? Especially like you moved to LA in a time where some people would say it's a period of a lot of rough times, but
Yeah.
like you have not wavered, which has been inspiring. How the fuck do you do that?
Um, I was thinking about that before I got on this call because I knew like I wanted to talk about that. But I just I guess I kind of didn't give myself an option but to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I think you can always have that option to like coming from the Midwest to move back home. Like my family's Stripper Mayor love them, but they're all like, "Oh, you can always come back home. Like we miss you." And I'm like, I love the emotional sentiment of that, but like I have a career that I'm trying to establish, and so there wasn't an option for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you got to do just like anything to make that work.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's you get caught up in like whether it's social media or like years past or like 10 or 20 years, like the industry ran a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to make it work for yourself because it's not pretty and it's not going to be perfect. But if you're determined, you can figure it out. That's very vague being said, but I say that vaguely because like everybody's journey is different.
Yeah, 100%. But like sometimes something simple is enough of a guideline, to get you there, which is like work hard and stay determined and keep the path. And like, what were some of those things that you told yourself or you talked about with yourself when you first moved there that sort of helped you stay focused on where you want to be?
Um, I think something that was huge is like I grew up in a very blue collar family.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad owns a small little construction company and does field tile, and like I had that I was growing up around. So like had I not been a filmmaker, I'd be running bulldozers and excavators.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that to like validate being an artist for a living, like not my parents are very supportive, but to still validate that with like the internalization that I have growing up with that life, I knew I needed to work. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was like, okay, if I'm PAing, the rate might not be great, but I'm on set, I'm getting paid, I can pay my rent, and I can get my industry or my career started in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a big thing that just like that mindset of not only like work hard and like be a good worker and pay attention, but also like try to make a living. And then that I feel like works against me sometimes because you have to take jobs and you have that like, oh, I need to be working, but sometimes you should focus on your creative stuff. So right now I'm balancing that a lot. But I think early on that was like a huge asset I had was work, get on set, show your work value, and then like, rates and pay and projects and stuff will start to follow.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the more I meet people that are entrenched in the Los Angeles film industry, the more I hear how much they love Midwesterners and Iowans sometimes specifically. Like I've heard from seriously like half a dozen producers or directors saying non-Iowans be like, "We love people from Iowa. They work so hard." And that is something that gets people ahead. And I think on film sets, it is hard work. I don't think people really understand it until they do it. That blue collar background helps a lot of people, and there's actually a lot of elements in a blue collar upbringing that are valuable. Like you can do construction, you can cut wood, you can, build things pretty confidently. But what I thought was interesting in that is like there's kind of two Coles, but I only kind of know you as a director, to be honest. I've worked with you very few times where you weren't in charge. Probably like three or four. I think we've gigged. Maybe not even that. So like I want to focus on you as a director. So when you made the jump out there, how were you approaching networking as a director? Well, like keep in mind this whole time we talk, you're also gigging and doing stuff as a PA or camera assistant, drone assistant, all these things. But how did you stay focused on the directing and like how did you network as a director when you moved out there?
Um, Yeah, it's tough. There's a lot of different ways. There was one quote that a director, Charles Hood, he's a director out in LA, met him in Iowa when he was directing play by play. But he was kind enough to jump on the phone call with me when I first moved to LA, and he said a quote, and he's like, "If you want to be a director, just direct." So I didn't know, like, I was like, "Oh, that's obvious," but I took it literal, and I was like, "Okay, like that's one of the most like useful advices I've gotten." So I would find anything to direct. So whether that was like kind of just the driving force of my networking was who wanted to do a project together, who found common ideas. So I'd go to film festivals or I would go to like house parties or an indie rock concert. And I would just go up to the artist and say, "Hey, I love your music. Do you want to do a video?" But something funny that I did when I moved to LA, I moved to LA when I was like the week I turned 20, so I wasn't even 21. So I had a fake ID not to party, but I did have a fake ID. So I'd go to film festivals and then get invited to the after parties, and I couldn't get into the bar. So that was my way, was to hustle and network, was use that fake ID.
That's
So it's
amazing.
kind of like it's kind of a whatever it takes mentality, and it was just anything to get somebody like-minded to create things with me is where
Mhm.
it all started that first year and a half in LA.
Do you think that whatever it takes mentality is like waning and leaving? Because I love that mentality. Like people are like, I'll talk to a friend about a project and they're like, "Well, I can't get anybody to listen." Like, let's go make them listen. Let's just show up and give them a pitch deck, a physical printed out binded pitch deck or something. Do you feel like that's like frowned upon or like? Because I don't. I love it. I love meeting people like that.
I think it's on how you present yourself
Mm-hmm.
and the project. If you're coming at somebody with a gimme mentality, then like absolutely that's frowned upon. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're going after people that you think would be interested and it's a collaboration and like it's a mutually beneficial project to go down together, I
Mm-hmm.
think you should like that's the people I look to talk to, or if they even approach me, I get excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a lot about the passion and trying to find people that have that mutual passion for whatever the medium or the subject or the character or the story. It's been like very apparent to me since I've known you that directing is like the thing that you really love the most. And I know sometimes like other things take over, but how do you like consistently plan to carve the time out to direct?
Um, I think I'm at this stage in my career now, finally, where it's such a priority where it just doesn't ever stop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I always tell myself and my peers, and I've probably told you before, but like we have enough time. So even if I do have a long day on set, like there's a weekend Saturday or a morning that I can go carve out time to go check out a shot list that I haven't looked at for a while for an upcoming shooter, whatever that is. Like, I think for me, I've just constructed my career to be so project driven and not just gig based or client based
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of have these cans open. And so until I can finish it, like I'm always drawn back to it.
Yeah.
So I wish I had a black and white answer for that, but my schedules are so all over the place with travels and shoots and being, in the film industry. I can't have a process like I want. But
Yeah.
what I do have is time. And so anytime I have that free time, I have a running checklist on an app called Trello
Mm-hmm.
that just keeps me on track, like status reports on each project I have opened up. And so whenever I do have that time, I jump in and prioritize.
So really like how you do it consistently is you just make it a priority. Even when you're
Yeah.
tired and you've worked on set for 12 hours, the next day you're going to send those emails or you're going to finish that pitch deck or you're going to work on the sizzle reel. Um,
Yeah, just it just never stops. And I think it's a full-time job, even if we want to have rest days, like you can stay up late that night, So I think that's something until your project's on the big screen, like, clock's always ticking.
yeah, I like that. And I think some people hear that and they get like anxious about it. But Sid and I have been talking about like, pressure, one being a privilege, like feeling pressure being, I heard this story about Shaq. I think it was his rookie year. He played against Patrick Ewing of the New York Knicks, who was a beast. Shaq had a really great game, a really bad game, and his dad was talking to him after the game, and I was like, "Shaq, like, what happened?" He's like, "I just felt so much pressure," and his dad was like, "Shaquille, pressure is a privilege. To feel that pressure, to be an NBA player, to play Patrick Ewing, that's a privilege." And I really like that stuck with me because you kind of always have to be working, like you said, and this weekend warrior film mentality that like a lot of us have. Can you talk about the importance of that? And like, it's not necessarily on the weekend, but like going out and doing these passion projects with your friends and people around you that you know are talented. Like, why is that so important to you?
Um, well, I think that it depends on what the project is. And to me, it's kind of a double-edged sword where it's either I want to work with people and like I want to just get that creative energy out collectively with whoever that is,
Yeah.
or I have a project that I've been sitting in front of the computer too long and I need to put a camera on it. So that
Hmm.
might be a feature film script I need to go shoot a little sizzle for, or, whatever that may be. It's either I'm turning and burning on the project too much just in my office, I got to put a camera on it. That's for me, like I can express myself. Or if there's a bunch of people we've been talking about stuff lately and we all just want to see how we work together, or, we haven't worked together a long time, like me and you, I think it just reminds us that we're filmmakers.
Hmm.
Because I think you can get caught up in the industry and get caught up on like pitching a project or budgets or joining the union and just all the mechanics of it. But picking up a camera and just telling a story with people that you collaborate well with, it's just the foundation of it all. So why that's important, I think it just reminds you of like why you spend all that time, doing all the hard work.
Yeah, yeah, well said. And I think it makes us call back to like when we started too, and like how fun it was when you first were telling a story with the camera and work with your friends, and that's what it is now. It's not any different really. It's the same thing really. It's just bigger and um, sometimes more elaborate is all. But yeah, it's really interesting to see everybody's careers go certain directions, right? And you've done a really great job of not only keeping people that you like started with, but then branching out and working with all these great people in LA, and specifically like finding people that have stories that you can help tell, which I think is something that a lot of people don't do. They think about just their own stories, and that's good. I think those are very important. But you also go out and like collaborate with writers. Can you kind of talk about why you like to collaborate with like specifically screenwriters and why that's a good opportunity as a director almost always?
Yeah. Um, that's a good question.
And you can reference the project too, the most recent one.
Yeah, yeah. I think why it's important is because like it's to make a good movie, it's just such a machine. Like I envy my recording artist friends because if they want on their computer with them a guitar, a recording program, like they can make a song in a couple
Yeah.
hours.
Hmm.
We cannot do that. Like even if we're the best filmmakers in the world, like unless you're Bo Burnham doing his movie, like that's a very rare case you can do something that impacts
Hmm.
the masses. So starting is like scripts everything. So at the foundation, if you aren't an amazing screenwriter, which I'm a storyteller, I'm a filmmaker, but like I like leaning on somebody for ideas because that's just such a lonely process for me. And like I'm a social person that I don't like sitting in front of my computer all day long. Like I would rather be in a room with another human being
Hmm.
and just spitballing and talk about life and, talk about tragedy or a win or things like that. And then let that conversation turn into the story. Um, for me, that's been a really good process. And so I have two writing partners I work with, Shane Sandler. We have an action comedy movie we are doing together. We've done some shorts. We're always shooting things together. And then I have Jackson Peckinpah, comes from a family of filmmakers, and him and I have been working together too. So I think it took me a while to find those two folks. Because it's like I have friends that we have good ideas, but putting that on paper, it's like someone's dragging their feet or someone's going a different lane. But now that I found those two, it's been super like liberating creatively just to like I'm not alone with my ideas anymore.
Yeah, those that part of the process specifically can be really lonely writing, and then I think editing can be lonely too. And it sounds counterintuitive, but I always have enjoyed editing in a room with somebody else too, just because it's like almost the final writing process. It's like you're putting all
Mhm.
the pieces together. But yeah, it's nice to have some companions because yeah, storytelling. I don't think people realize that it can be lonely. In the conception phase, depending on the genre too, it can get even lonelier. Um, can you talk a little bit about this feature, um, that you've been kind of working on, and just talk about why that's important to you and kind of the approach that you've been taking with it, and obviously like um, where you would want it to go, like in a best case scenario.
I mean, it's this movie that Shane had an idea for and wrote version of the script years ago. And we hadn't worked together in a while. He told me the log line, I obsessed over it. And so I kind of hounded him till he sent me pages. And then from there, we've just been grinding on the script, while simultaneously like packaging every asset to the project as possible. It is an indie movie. We think that like there's not a studio attached to or anything, but so what we've been doing very strategically is bringing people, which goes back to what I was saying with collaborating with people that are interested in projects. So
Hmm.
it's a movie that has race cars. So we're talking to race car teams and race car drivers and stunt folks and race tracks. things like that that is just very specific to this project. And so
Hmm.
while we're creatively writing and scripting it and bringing producers involved and everything, we're also going out where we would like to shoot it, and we're like putting our eyes on it and hanging out in the space, going to the races, things like that. So it's been a very like full force, understand the lifestyle and then figure out how we can make this movie reverse engineered, because
Hmm.
it's really hard to make a movie, especially as a first time feature director. What I've noticed is being a first time feature scripted director is you are also a first time director. Like,
Yeah,
if you haven't made a full length scripted movie, most people just view you as you haven't directed much of anything.
100%.
Um, so I've been trying to figure out how to combat that. I have a lot of seat time as a director, but it's not in this specific, project. So that's been another thing that a lot of my efforts have went towards, is how to navigate that.
Yeah, and I'm glad we talked about that because that's a portion of the process that I think some people probably don't understand that that's part of it, you know. Like sometimes with being a director, you can get in that development phase for a really long time and, putting a lot of boots to the ground, doing a lot of research. Overall, I think that just makes you a better director, but it's a part of the process that sometimes people just want to sit in that chair and, call action. And there's a lot more to it than that. And how do you find yourself, especially in like the epicenter of filmmaking in the United States, how do you find yourself like learning from the people around you to become a better like director in the moments that you're not on set? Like I think that's one thing that sticks out about you personally is like you have great interpersonal skills, great communication skills, but like what are the skills that you've honed in on when you're not on set to like grow?
Um, One thing I wrote down that I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of the answer to this, is hobbies. Um, like, you have hockey that you play. Do you still play weekly?
Yeah, play every Wednesday.
I think it's the hobbies have made me grow as a director more than any filmmaking tech or watching any director roundtables or any of that, because it's life.
Hmm.
So I think for me, it's like the past couple of years, taking my head out of the book a little bit and getting a little more into my, that's family or friends or sports, and living
Hmm.
has really helped me. Like, I find jokes, like I'll be out and about and somebody will say something, and it's like this funny little one liner that I write in my notes, and then that makes it my script. And so I think that's been my biggest thing, is being in LA and always surrounded by like film talk. And like every time you're at socializing, it's everybody talking about their project or their new camera or these new lenses. And it's like, it's exhausting. So
Hmm.
for me, it's like I go ride dirt bikes and I race motocross. So I'll get up on a day that I'm not on the film set. I'll go 6 a.m., go ride my dirt bike for a couple hours, come home. I got so much energy. I'm inspired, and I'll probably write or edit, So I think that's been something for me to like recharge myself.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that. A lot of smart people say don't give every single ounce of your person to filmmaking. You have to like have other things. Um,
I think it also inspires me, Like, I think being a director is like, you're not a technician, you're a creative. But you need, even though have to have that technical knowledge, you still need to be able to like reflect life and how other people would see life. So that's been really nice. Meet people of other ages and other backgrounds and other
mhm.
stories. It makes your springboard of knowledge stronger as a director when you're doing a scene.
Yeah, yeah, well said once again. And I think also the other thing it does for people like you and me is we also make films about those passions, like, and sometimes maybe when you're in the seat on the bike, gripping the handlebars, ripping it, maybe an idea will come to you once in a while, or after you get off the bike, you're like, oh, we should try this shot, or we should do this for a project, and like, I feel that way about hockey all the time. I feel like the night when I play hockey, when I come home and I'm like chilling by myself, I always write. Like almost always will write something because, like you said, it inspires me. It makes me feel whole almost. And I think that's important for people to hear. Is like filmmaking is just a part of you. It's not everything, especially when you're coming to be a director. I think there's some jobs that like you can dedicate your entire life to, and that's a good thing. But directors really do have to live and like travel and talk to people and to be good at
Yeah.
the craft. It's interesting. And
And don't get me wrong, like on the drive to and from the track, I'm usually on a phone call.
yeah, yeah,
But there is that like 20, 30 minutes where I'm on the bike that I'm not thinking about anything. And it's just that resets the needle that I think we all need, especially with the creative industry. And, also it's like there's a lot of second guessing and you have to really believe in yourself being a filmmaker. So, just kind of releasing all the pressure for a second is really good.
yeah. There's like a level of delusion as an artist that you have to have. You have to believe in yourself more than anybody. Um, Even sometimes people closest to you, the people closest to you are like, should you do that? And you're like, I'm doing it, and it's like, it's good to have those people checking you sometimes, but also you have to sometimes just be like, no, I know this is insane, but I'm going to do it. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think being a person though is like what gives you the confidence to be a well-rounded person. Gives you the confidence to like be delusional in a way, because it's not everything, like you have other facets of yourself that can fulfill you if something in filmmaking doesn't work out. Like you're not going to be crushed. There's always something else moving on. So yeah, when it comes to like passion projects, like you directing passion projects as opposed to like the projects you want funding for, like what do you care about when it comes to the passion project, and like how do you kind of choose those passion projects?
Um, It varies, obviously, because it's a passion project, but it's usually projects that I don't want permission from anybody to make.
Got it. Yeah.
So I think a passion project is something I just believe in, and I don't want to go through the hassle of convincing anybody else that it's a good idea. I just want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's usually, or I might have a filmmaker friend who they feel that way about their script. And so I want to support them in that, like, all right, let's just send it, let's just do it, which goes back to that delusion.
Hmm.
Well, we're not looking for answers. We're not looking for a pat on the back. We're just trying to make it. And I
Yeah.
think that's what passion projects should be. Um, but being a professional working in this industry, I also look for a challenge in those projects. So, like one of the ones we did recently was shooting on film. And so we had Shorten's film shooting just in my house, and like garters are popping up next door and things like that. But, it was something that we believed in and we wanted to make. We learned a lot from it. So I think you gotta always challenge yourself though with passion projects if you're a professional. If you're a hobby filmmaker, like just do what makes you happy.
Hmm.
If you're a professional filmmaker, like take that time to really push your boundaries, whether it's pushing your crew, pushing yourself, pushing the performance, whatever it is, like find that one or two things that really actually sets you back, but it'll make you stronger on the actual job.
Yeah, I love that because that's something Marissa and I talk about when we make our shorts is like we'll literally have a conversation be like, what's the one thing we want to improve upon this time that we haven't done before? And for the latest one, we wanted like the location that almost needed no set dressing at all. And we wanted it to like our location choice to be like really strong and not just like white walls or beige walls or gray walls. And luckily she already knew what we were doing, but it's like that process of like always trying to get better, I think is something that I'm really seeing pay dividends for people around me. Like, how do you focus on that growth from project to project? And is there like a moment of reflection that you have after a project's finished, or does it kind of come slowly? Do you write things down? Like, how do you reflect on growth in this industry as a director?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think some things is like it depends on the phase of the project. Like if I'm watching dailies, I'm usually being nitpicky on the camera moves and like my shot list,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Or if I'm in the editing room, I'm being more picky on my direction and if I got all the scenes and all the shots I need to make it a cohesive piece.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I look at it months down the road, I look at it more from a viewer standpoint. Like, did I tell the client or the artist or the character story how I was wanting to, and is that relatable, or did I just get caught up on like maybe this shot I thought was cool?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I do reflect on all of my projects like over kind of years.
Mm-hmm.
But they come in different waves. So with the technical side and the execution of the shot listing, that I'm very like analytical about. Like I go back through my shot list, I watch that, I see what makes the cut,
Mm-hmm.
I see where I could have trimmed the fat. Maybe I wasted some time on a shot that wasn't needed. Things like that, because I always want to improve on being the type of director that shoots for what's going to go on the screen and not getting caught up in any of the stuff that is just going to get cut,
Yeah.
because things are cool and like we get excited about stuff because we're filmmakers and maybe there's a cool lens flare or whatever it is. But
Mm-hmm.
is that just going to eat up time that should be going towards maybe a boring shot that drives the story forward?
Yes.
So that's something that I like really like try to analyze in the cutting room and like when I'm putting it together. But then beyond, it kind of goes back to like at the end of the day, it's all about the viewer.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to learn all this stuff to do service to the viewer.
I wanted to have you on season one, and this conversation makes me so happy. Like I just hearing you say some words like that you say, like it people maybe give me a hard time sometimes because like on a narrative set, if someone's like, we should do this because it's cool, I'm like, bro, we're not doing it because it's cool. I need something else. You got to sell me on it some other way. And I just love to hear that you're a director with intention. I already knew that, but I just makes me so happy when people are intentional and not wasting people's time because like, yeah, we can edit and we can throw stuff on the cutting room floor. That's great. But momentum and like force forward is, I think, more important. And what drives that force and that momentum forward is always the story. So to even hear you say it could be a boring shot that moves the story forward, oh man, that makes me really happy because sometimes it needs to be that boring shot that's locked off on a 2 shot for 4 minutes. You know,
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, it's contrast, and I cut my teeth in music videos, like I think that's where I spent a lot of seat time, like exploring and
Yeah, which
figuring
is
out how
great.
to figure out how to not only like create but wear the hat and communicate to crew and stuff like that, and where you put that time. But yeah, I just ran into a lot of situations where everything was cool with the music video, and
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of drained me. Like I was tired of flashy stuff. So then like I went ladder where like my short we shot on film dial up. Like one of the goals was to barely move the camera,
Yeah,
and we moved it like 3 times, I
yeah.
think. And I loved it. But then like now it's like, okay, now it's different projects. Sometimes cool is good. Sometimes you do want just cool shit all the
Oh, for
time.
client work or music videos, cool plays. When I said that, it was like
Sick.
narrative specifically, but like there's even times
Yeah.
with narrative you can get cool, but it's like cool in what?
Yeah, the
That's what
intention.
I want. Yeah.
It's got to be justified, and it's got to be in the world, and it's got to have its flavor that, just doesn't come from left field.
Yeah,
But
totally.
that's creating all artwork and, really in the industry. If you're making something, it's got to be a piece of the puzzle, that fits nicely.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, I think that's why I jive with you is I never feel like the times we work together, I never feel like you're telling me to do something that I'm like, why the fuck is he having me do this? Um, Now there's sometimes where I'm like, what are we doing? But that's a good thing because I'm like, you're pushing me, and like, I think that's really fucking cool when you push people around you, and you do a great job of that. Because I think you've also done a great job of like having people who are at the same level as you, and you can like create together and kind of grow, and then you're always like looking for people above that you can learn from. Because I think ultimately, like a director always needs to learn, right? Um, are there some things that you've learned from not being a director on set that you think are valuable to talk about? Like from having not the quote unquote pressure of being a director, but sitting back and seeing things from a PA's point of view or, drone assistant's point of view, or the things that you've learned from watching other directors? Cause like, I know that's not the main thing that educates you, but you've been on set with some cool directors. I say cool, of course. I say fucking cool, uh, talented directors. But I don't know if there's anything that sticks out that you've kind of taken away, because sometimes this business can be about mentorship too, and you can learn from the
Mm-hmm.
mentors. Is there anybody that sticks out?
Yeah. I mean, you could probably answer this like when you just stumble on set, like you always learn something.
Oh yeah.
Even if you're not doing the thing that your profession or your career calls for, if you're on set for a job,
Hmm.
you're on set. So you might even learn bad things. Like I think I've learned more
Yes.
good things from people's bad habits.
Yep.
Like I don't like to, wish a shit show of a production on anybody. But if I'm like a position, like a grip or something like that, helping a friend out and it becomes a shit show, I love watching how it happened and how it's solved because things get crazy on film sets and then
Hmm.
but usually it's preventable.
Yeah. What
So
didn't
I
they
think
think
those,
about?
yeah, so that's like early on some of the best lessons I've learned, but now I'm like when I'm not directing, the things I'm working on are really big movies and TV
Hmm.
shows. So now I'm learning like the right things, which was
Yeah.
something that like that's I don't want to talk because we're focused on the direct stuff, but like when I crew to make money and to learn.
Yeah.
So and also work with people that I enjoy because there's a lot of great filmmakers that I just like being on set with.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the things that like I learned being on those sets is just because you have more toys and the set is bigger, it doesn't mean filmmaking changes. Like it, the what if you look outside of the camera and the viewfinder, it's massive.
Yeah.
But if you look through the viewfinder, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
So lighting techniques very similar. Like
Hmm.
set design, it's same. It's just you can now look at the world instead of looking at a corner.
Yeah.
So that's been something nice to see because I used to always be scared of like, okay, if I get on a big movie set and I'm directing, like, can I handle it? But now you see how it works, and you're like, oh, it's larger, but it's no different.
Hmm.
That's been a big peace of mind thing that I've learned
Hmm.
working on these big movies. But I think also just how to talk to people more than anything. I think it's a case by case thing. But I think you see directors that are highly creative and they're the fullest form of an artist, and they talk to people one way, and they can talk to people the right way and the wrong way. Now there's other directors that are more commercial directors that they just want what they want, and that's the only way you can get it to them. But there's also the right way and the wrong way to say that.
Yeah.
So seeing the different spectrums at a high level has been really good to see. And also seeing how DPs work in the mix and seeing how, A-list talent handles themselves on set. Do they go to the trailer? Do they hang out on set? And just seeing the machine in full force has been very eye-opening.
Yeah. And I mean, I think once again, you've done a great job so far of just like putting these into really eloquent words because that's a big question, right? Like, what have you learned from people you've watched on set? But like you said, every time you step on set, you're going to learn something if you're ready and willing and open to it. And that's the cool thing about a lot of you guys that moved out to Los Angeles. Like, you guys are all sponges. Like, it's cool. It's really awesome to see. I mean, like, I think about you and Sid and Taylin and Caleb and a bunch of other people. Um, you guys have just really leveled up. And I think it's because you pay attention. A lot of you. Like, even when you're
Yeah.
not, even when, Talon isn't the DP, like he's paying attention. And then when he DPs, he's using all those lessons that he was paying attention to. I just think that's some people can go into the job and just be like, oh, I got to be first AC today. This sucks, And that none of you guys are like that. You guys just are gamers. You're lifers. Like, you love this, and it's awesome. It's really motivating. Like, you guys have motivated me beyond the point where I could put it into words. Like, watching everything you guys do. So yeah.
No, I think it's likewise. And I guess to like the learning side of things, it's being on set is where you become that sponge. And that's like a phrase I've been, told many times, like just be a sponge.
Yeah.
But then like the technical stuff that I'm like, I haven't really touched on. If you're working with a camera and you're curious on a filter or whatever, like those are the questions that you ask. If you're on a set, you can learn how to interact with people just from watching afar. But then there are the technical things that you do need to walk up and ask those questions from the people. And don't be afraid to learn. Like if you're curious, ask what the light is or what the dolly's doing. Because that's also, weapons to add to your force later.
And so you've kind of done a little bit of everything on set. I think we should just talk about that real quick. We're not going to focus on it, but that's given you a lot of different perspectives. And besides from like learning to direct through those means, like what else has that given to you, that those different perspectives?
Um, it's given me a way to live, I guess. I think that's something that like, directing pays and you can make a living directing, but when you're a full-time director, you're saying yes to jobs that you kind of don't want to, and that creative energy is being exhausted in a direction that you would probably want it to go somewhere else. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's been a necessary career decision to get on jobs,
Yeah.
and you get paid for those. And then
Yeah.
you come home and then you still be a director.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that like I promote to friends is like, don't be afraid of the hustle.
Yeah.
But I think more than anything, I think it gives you like when you're on set and you're doing the technical side, it I think you said earlier takes the pressure off
Mm-hmm.
of like being the director. Then you can focus on the technical side and
Yeah.
a little more of like the craft that the crew does.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they move the camera and when do they move the camera and why? Little things like that, or what tools are being used. Are they using a dolly for this? Are they using a drone for this? Are they using a jib? Like when do certain shots call for certain tools. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that's the stuff you need to have in your arsenal as a director anyways. But you I'm always fascinated by the directors that have only directed, because I'm like, how do you know this much stuff?
Yeah.
uh, but for me, like I'm young and I wanted to expedite my career as quick as possible. So I'm like, as much knowledge as I can get, as much short amount of time, it's going to help me be of better service to my crew and cast when I am that director.
Yeah, and I like that you say that you of service to your crew and cast, because I think the best directors are in service of the story, the cast, and the crew. A lot of projects I've worked on, unfortunately, seem to be focused on one or two of those and not all three, and that's fine. You know, people learn and grow, but I think there's an unspoken and maybe a subconscious thing that happens when you do start lower. I think you appreciate everybody's craft a little bit more, um, which is, I think, important. But also, there's directors that have only directed that appreciate the hell out of everyone's craft too. So that's what I like about filmmaking too. Is there? I don't think there is any black and white in art, right? Like
Mhm.
everything's different and everything's unique. But is there something for you that like you're called to again and again, like a specific genre or specific type of project that you find yourself really gravitating towards? Because I think kind of the more some directors work, it seems like they make the same movie again and again, just different ways, you know? You don't strike me as a director like that, but is there something that you're really attracted to as far as story goes?
I think something that as of recent, because it always changes with me,
Mm-hmm.
but as of recent, I'm noticing a theme of purpose in the world. And I think that comes from being in a super small town and moving to a big city and not knowing anybody and having to find your way in the mix. And I made a bold decision of where I wanted to take my life from a small town to move to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could have made other options. So I have a lot of those thoughts of like, okay, but what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that? So I think what I'm trying to put in my stories and something that's exciting to me is accepting the decisions you've made and maximizing life in those scenarios. So like the action comedy movie, it's about two guys in a crossroads and what are they going to do with it? And they take it to the fullest extreme. So I think that goes back to just life, and even like you're into hockey, I'm into motocross, we're into filmmaking. Like nothing I sign up for is kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
I like the challenge, and so that's starting to sneak its way into my stories and my scripts. I'm noticing where it's like celebrating the grind and celebrating the struggle with hopes of a greater future.
Damn, that's sick. I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
man, you're so well spoken, Cole. It's awesome. It honestly is great to hear, and
Well, I
uh,
mean,
yeah, it's
you know
awesome.
my projects though. I'm curious if you think there's anything else I'm missing, because I don't think I'm genre specific. I don't want to be as a director, but there are these like subtleties I'm noticing in my stories.
I mean, I think you like the underdog story. I think because, and I can relate to this. Like, and maybe I'm speaking out of, and you can tell me to shut up if I'm wrong. But like, neither of us are big. And as a kid playing hockey, I was always like the like the scrawny one, you know. So I'm attracted to underdog stories because I feel like when you're a small person, you know, like of stature, you have to like work harder to make people believe that you can do it. And you were a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you had to do a little bit of the same thing. And I think there's some of that for you, like the underdog, like beating the insurmountable quote unquote odds. Um, but for you, what I like is it's always with a good attitude. It's never like the world did me wrong. I got the wrong set of cards. You're always your vision is always a positive one, which is great. Which I think filmmaking needs. We got enough sad stories, man. We got enough
Yeah.
stories that make people feel like shit, you know? Like let's send people
Well,
out of the theaters feeling good. Or at least
yeah.
hopeful.
That's what I think. I think life's hard, and I think with the feature that Shane and I have been writing is like we went through the strike while writing it. Like we're both coming up on 30, and it's like we really want a great future for ourselves. Like we
Yeah.
want to tell these stories, but it's like it's not easy.
No.
And so it's like how do you display that in storytelling? And I think that's something that, you know, I don't want to say Hollywood because that phrase is used, but entertainment industry forgets about how hard it is to become great. And so even when you hear the
Hmm.
one hit wonders of the world and stuff like that, we don't hear much about the come up story.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is way more relatable than standing on a big stage with all the lights.
Yeah, and I think sports are a great vessel for that story too. So like having in and motorsports is something you're really interested in. Even like the feature, like the car driving aspect, there's like a competition to it, you know, and a way to prove yourself through time or like distance or success of getting one thing from point A to point B. So I think sports for both of us have been like a vessel of like hope, you know. And that's one thing I always talk about with sports is like people can bag on organized sports all they want, but like on an individual level from person to person, I think sports are really can be really powerful and instrumental in people's lives. And I think it also like getting into filmmaking, it provides this structure and this team mentality, you know, even as a wrestler, yes, you are going out and wrestling individually, but you're part of a team and you're trying to win, you know, that meet as a team as much as you are as an individual. But yeah, I think that's all good for both of us, and I'm fortunate to have been an athlete. I think it's made me a better filmmaker in a lot of ways. So, um,
I think competition's good. You know, I think it's being respectful is number one, but pushing each other and like whether it's filmmaking or sports or whatever it is, I think having that edge
mhm.
really pushes you to the next level. And if you're not challenged, it goes back to your quote with the pressure. Like if you don't have that pressure on you, your rate of growth is probably going to be a little bit slower.
Yeah, and there's all those like cliche quotes, but like pressure builds things, you know, like when in terms of like the earth, like pressure literally makes diamonds, you know, and people say that cliche all the time, but like there's truth to it. Like you got to be able to withstand the pressure in hopes that your vision 10, 15, 20 years down the road is going to be there, you know. And I love people that focus on longevity in this industry too, as opposed to like the quick fix. Like I don't think I've ever heard you talk about the one, you know, like this is the one, man, you know. It's always like
Mhm.
this is the six, man. You know? It's always just like no, it's not one project, it's six projects cuz like even if you I don't know, even if you have a hit, like what's next, you know? And that's how the industry thinks.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to my dad about this because he loves filmmaking, but he's a construction worker. Like he runs heavy machinery. But I always talk about like, oh, I just want my movies to like have the longevity. And like I get frustrated with the streaming model and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
he reminds me, he's like, yeah, but if it's good, go make another good one. And
Mhm.
I'm like, you're kind of right. Like, you know, as much as like I think I still believe in cult classics and I really want those to be a thing again. But there shouldn't be the one, you know, it could be the one for you internally, but
Exactly.
we're filmmakers and, you know, film is a commodity that keeps on giving. And so you don't want to just give all your energy to one of them and just walk away.
No, and I think you can give the same amount of energy to several, you know. It doesn't have to be one. I think there is a recharge period probably for most like normal filmmakers, but cuz like those big projects take a lot out of you. And that's actually a question I would love to ask you is like how do you physically and mentally prepare to be a filmmaker? Like what are you doing to like withstand the grind?
I think I mentioned earlier is hobby is a big one. Like, cause you know, you can get lost in the sauce
Mhm.
really early. Um, but a really good support system, I think, is something that's super helpful. Like family, you know, even if they don't get it, like my parents, I brought them on set a few times, which helped them like, oh, I understand what people are doing and like
Mhm.
how a movie's made. But I think having your family support you or your loved ones, like my wife is a huge supporter of projects I'm doing. And like before I go and I shoot something, I'm having her read it and kind of check it out and be like, hey, you're my sounding board. Like you know my brain as good as I do. Like how does this look? How's it fit in the fold of everything else? So I think that's been really nice to keep like the longevity and keep the grind going and, you know, always be able to be confident in the decisions I'm making. It's because I have a really good support system. And then also my peers, like people like you've read my scripts that haven't been shot yet. You know, it's just I'm looking for advice and, you know, feedback from viewers and humans. And I think, you know, don't be alone is like the number one thing, you know, your surroundings are everything.
Once again another fucking phenomenal answer, Cole, because I think everyone there's a time in everybody's filmmaking career where they feel alone. And I've never really quite understood why people try to do so much by themselves, you know? But I've seen everybody do it. Like I've gone through it. I think you've
Mhm.
probably gone through it. But there's a point where you begin to trust the people around you. Um, Even the non filmmakers, you know, like I am fascinated by what my parents think of my projects, you
Same.
know? And sometimes my dad specifically will say something, I'm like, I never thought of that. and you're right.
Mm.
Like, I remember he said something about Chiefsaholic, and I was like, what? Where's your brain coming from? And I was, it's coming from a place of being an engineer, which is a brain I don't get access to that often. I get access to a lot of filmmaker brains, you know, but like having Sydney, like even though she's a filmmaker, like she has a great as a sounding board is amazing. Like I don't do any projects that I don't talk to her about. But having that soundboard and having that support system is like vital. And I think why I appreciate you talking about it is because people isolate themselves in this industry a lot. It's like you don't have to show people a script that's perfect. Like just send it to somebody and they'll help you get it to be more close to perfect. You know,
Yeah.
it's all about
Well,
community.
we make films with filmmakers, but we're making films for people.
Exactly.
And I sometimes I've had like pushback from like, hey, I'm gonna send the script to my dad, or like send the script to like Bruce, who like he's not attached to it. I just want Bruce to read it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, some people are like, oh no, like their opinions like will matter. Like, oh, they're not filmmakers. And it's like that's why I'm sending it to them, is because they're not filmmakers. They're just people
Yeah.
who can tell me if it resonates or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, and it is nerve-wracking sending something like a script out or a rough cut or whatever, but that's our responsibility as filmmakers to have a really good peer base. You know, if something's still shitty, I still want to send it to you you can tell me how shitty it is.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? So yeah, that's part of it though.
How have you developed the thick skin to take critique? Because like at first, like I think for everybody, it is a little rough, and you take it personally. But like, how have you developed that thick skin and understood that it's never personal?
I think I become more stubborn,
Mm-hmm.
which like I'm more confident in my decisions. Like the things I want to fight for, if somebody says it's a bad idea, but I still think it's a good idea, I don't care about their opinion
Mm-hmm.
specifically in that one thing. And that's like I'm being selfish for the creative side of it, but it's just I've already made my decision and I like it.
Yeah.
And then I've been able to now know what I'm open to feedback on, or the undeniable things. So I think that's been helpful, is I know where I want advice from and I know where I'll just throw the advice out the window.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just part of knowing, knowing what I'm trying to make, because some people might not see the final form of the project yet.
Mm-hmm.
So they might not see how I'm going for it quite yet. And I just got to keep pushing it. But feedback's always good. If somebody's like, I don't get it at all, then, I should probably listen to them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially if you trust them. You know, it's different when you're working with like a day player that comes on. Is like, I don't understand. It's like, okay, but if it's someone that trusts you, you trust them. It's like, yeah, I should pay attention. But
Yeah.
how do you? Out of curiosity, I'm throwing a lot of like curveballs at you, but how do you actually like communicate that on set? Because like that's something that I'm trying to work on. Is as a cinematographer, sometimes somebody will come up to me and be like, "Hey, what about this?" And I'm like, I'm so dead set on this for an intention, for having intention behind the decision, but sometimes I'm so like this that I can just be like, oh no, we're not going to do that. Which isn't the most kind way to say it. Like how do you communicate that to people when they're throwing out ideas but you want to be resolute in your vision?
Yeah, I think that's a case by case thing, because it depends on who the opinion's coming from or who the idea. Like, I feel like the people I staff projects with and I collaborate with, like they know when and not to say something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's huge. Is like your crew, like they respect when your brain is open for opinions and when your brain is shut off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have no problem saying no. I've already
Yeah.
got it figured out though. I
Yeah.
think, but you just have it. You hope that it's in a non-stressful moment. Like I think the only time that I get frustrated in those situations when it's like time crunch and like
Yeah.
schedule is pressing and I already have it figured out and I've got somebody else trying to give me a new idea and I'm like, we don't have time for new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's where my frustrations would lie. But outside of that, I try to, I try to celebrate people coming up and chirping in with ideas. But before that happens, I hope as a director, I've conveyed what we're actually going for. So there shouldn't be any questions. And I think I try to be, I'm not always an amazing communicator, but when I need to be, I like to think that before we're doing anything, it's all flushed out. Everybody understands if there are questions or ideas, they're brought up in a little meeting or, walking through the shot list. So then when it's time to do it, we're not wasting on new ideas.
Yeah. That's great.
I
Once
think it's,
again.
It's more how you run the show. I think it's taking the time. It might take 5 minutes to go walk through the scene and do a blocking rehearsal, but everything's answered in that 5 minutes.
Yeah, it saves you time, and it helps people to understand what the actual vision on the day is. Like, there's only so much you can convey through pitch decks and Zoom meetings, but like on location scouts and blocking rehearsals, that's when you can really like give people the idea like this is where we're headed. And when you do that, I think you're minimizing those like sort of left field ideas as well, which once again is just a really important thing to do, is to like give people this is the parameters we're working in. These are kind of like the rules we've created for ourselves. It doesn't mean we can't break those rules, but let's think with that lens on, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, so what do you look for in a crew? Like what as a director, what keeps you calling certain people back? What are the qualities that stick out to you when you're working with people?
I think first and foremost is ambition. Like I want to be on set with nice people, but they don't have to be my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've learned to realize that I don't have to work with all of my friends. I just need to work with people who are really excited to be there and really good at their craft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't have to care about the story though. Like if they don't think the script is interesting, as long as they think the lighting is interesting and the style of lighting I want to go for, the gaffer doesn't need to love the script as long as he's read it.
Yeah.
So I think it's, I want people to read the pages. I want people to read the sheets when they come out. I want people to be invested, ask questions, take time to prep. Like don't just show up on the job, call me the day before, I'll call you even. Like those little subtleties, they go a long ways because ice is broken and then we can just do our jobs.
Yeah. Once again, that's the kind of director I like working with. So that's awesome to hear. I mean, I think for me, like what's been cool about this conversation is I don't often get to talk to directors like this, like about your process. I just like talk to you about the story that we're doing. So this has been a cool perspective for me to learn more about how you think as a director as well. Um, have there been any things that you have done that have helped you to like hone in your director brain that we haven't talked about? Like, I know we touched upon in the beginning, like really doing it is the best thing. But do you like? Are you thinking about directing when you watch movies? Do you read books? Is there anything that you've done on the side other than what we've talked about?
I think something I wanted to bring up is like I prep a lot
Mm-hmm.
and not like I prep for the shoot, obviously. I do the shot list and I work like intensely on the schedule and stuff, but I also start prepping like way in advance. Like
Mm-hmm.
for our feature script, like I have scenes that I've boarded and then put those boards into Premiere and edited with music and sound effects and dialogue. And I'll explore things in like very, very early stages of prep. So I try movies I love, like my favorite ones. I'll go back and I'll pick them apart and find like favorite shots or stuff. But I try to just be a viewer with
Yeah,
movies.
it's hard.
Like I've hurt myself with some movies I would have really liked by going in and watching them as filmmakers. So
Yeah.
really try to shut that off. But it's really the prep. It's like I think there's so many things you can doodle and you can do, a shot list or you can download, action scenes from YouTube and then go do a rip reel and stuff. And it's I think those like explorative moments that you could do as a director that cost no time or cost no money, but just your time. So I think that's the stuff that is my process before I even start talking to you about the ideas and stuff like that is I've taken the time to do preliminary shot lists and I have soundtracks. I have like a whole album, for every single project with the music that I listen to when I'm writing or shot listing or doing whatever. So I curate like I guess an echo chamber of what that project is and the tone and the flavor of it before I even start talking to other people about it.
That's awesome to hear. I think that's once again just like a really valuable thing for people to hear right now who are wanting to be directors, who are curious about what it is to be a director. I believe, from my perspective, not as a director, but as working closely with them, that the movie is made in prep. Like that
Yeah.
you basically determine the success of the film before you even get to set. Yes, you can get lucky, and a lot of people are good at that. A lot of people are good at showing up and being like, "Let's figure it out." I'm not that way. I don't think that most of the people that I work with are that way. We want to know what we're doing and how we can do it best, right? But I think some of that comes from you producing too. So, like this producer mind that you have, how does that make you a better director?
It used to be something that made me, for a short period of time, made me a worse director because I was worried about budget and scheduling and like these producer things.
Yeah.
And so I had to that and use it as an asset. So I can early on, while I'm even writing a scene, I can know like, oh, this is going to take me about a half day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can look at those things and like, oh, like this is going to be a really hard day. Like this scene, I need to like really pay attention to. So I have just like the seat time of running, productions and stuff and like dealing with clients and things to know like I think it goes back to just being like a sponge. Like I've made those mistakes in the past. So I know like, okay, here I'm thinking about cutting this corner. I've cut that corner before. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So I think it just goes back to even like the crew. It's just anything that I've done on sets not directing just makes me a better director because
Mm-hmm.
just more exposure.
Yeah, I think one of the like if there was like a keyword for this like episode, I think balance would be like one of the keywords because you've done a great job of like balancing your career and your passion as a filmmaker, and
Mhm.
hopefully those two just intersect very quickly and they're both the same thing, and you can just have a career with your passion projects. But even with like how you talk about producing and directing, there's a balance there because I would almost assume that you're really good at turning your producer brain off and not letting the producer brain get in the way of the story too, right? Because that's also something you can't when you're writing that scene, especially for something like the feature that you've been working with with Shane on. Like you don't want to like hold yourself back just because it's going to be hard. Can you talk about like that mentality too, like letting yourself be free to like dream big, even though there's this little voice be like, Cole, this is going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take forever. Like, how do you silence those voices and continue to write the story you want to write?
I think it has to be validated. Like if I'm trying to hypothetically blow something up, like why is it blowing up?
Yeah.
And is it worth it? Like I think that's the thing is like you have your producer mind of like, oh, this is going to be really hard logistically to pull off or really expensive. But then you have your creative writer director mind that you're like, but if we can pull this off,
Mm-hmm.
this project becomes so much greater.
Yeah.
So it's the things like that where, I think you have to fight. It goes back to the balance.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember who told me this, but I wish I remembered. One time I was on set and it was a DP and he was like, I'm not interested in something that makes this 30% better, but if you can make it 60% better, I'll take it.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really wise. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you have to make really quick decisions and you have to be like, what are we going to sacrifice? What are we going to stand for? And that balance of like sacrifice and then, I'll always refer to it as like the hill I'll die on, like I'm going to die on this hill. Like this is important for the movie. I'll sacrifice this. That balance is important as a director too. Right. And like, how do you, in the moment, is it the prep that informs it so you can make those quick second decisions or like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's usually always in the prep because if you prep well enough, you know where your hurdles are going to be. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're prepared to make those hard decisions. You might not know what decision you're going to make yet, but if you've prepared, like you know that there's going to be a roadblock
Mm-hmm.
coming up on something. And it just makes you more informed to make that decision, whatever direction you go.
Yeah.
But then also it's like it gives you if you prep, it gives you time to make those phone calls and like figure out if you're signing up for disaster or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like having like a wealth of filmmakers. If I have a car stunt, like I have stunt buddies, I'll just call and say, "Hey, am I ridiculous for trying to pull this off, or is there a way?"
Mm-hmm.
And then you can it goes back to the reverse engineering of filmmaking. You figure out if you can pull off your creative or if you're a crazy person.
Yeah. And once we get to a certain level, we can pull anything off in the world, which is the beauty of filmmaking. But where we're at right now, we got to be like, can we blow this car up? No. Okay. We're not going to blow the car. We're going to, do, CG or VFX or whatever. But those decisions I think those decisions are fun, man. I
The
love,
solutions, they're
yeah,
solutions, not even a
exactly.
decision, they're solutions where it's
Yeah.
like, how do you find that creative solution to still make the most with what you got?
Yeah. And that's part of what keeps me here is the problem solving, someone being like, hey, I want the camera to do this. And I'm like, all right, cool. Give me a few days. I'll get back to you, Um, And a lot of the time, are we creating something completely new? No, but it's bespoke. It's new to Cole. It's something Cole's never done. It doesn't matter if someone's already done it. That shit doesn't matter. So
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to your other question you're asking, like the yin and yang of directing and producing. But I think it's liberating to just do it, like to not hold yourself back. Like even when you walk into prep, if you have like this crazy thing you're trying to pull off, like don't just say no. Like
mhm.
go down the path of trying to pull it off. Like take the time to explore every option if it is possible, because think about how great it would be if you could do that shot or whatever it is. So I don't know. I celebrate like the challenges, and like if it is hard, that kind of excites me. As long as it's safe, I want it to be hard to pull off.
Yeah, time and balance, man. I think if you want to take two things away from this, it's you got time and you can balance it and you can balance, having a career and directing and you can find all these things working cohesively if you just focus on it, which I think is cool. I think that's what's special about this conversation is like you're helping people realize that, you know, one, you already are a director. Just go do it. And you have time. You just need to remember that there is time. Like I think we often get like anxious about it, but you got time. So
Yeah.
speaking of time, what
Well,
what go ahead. Did you want to add something?
no, I was just gonna say, like, I even do this little thing. I'll look at my phone and see how much screen time I had on it
Oh
for
yeah.
like the previous week. And I'll be like, oh wow, you were super lazy this week,
Yeah.
Cole. You could have done X, Y, Z. And it goes back. We all have time if you care about it, and we all care about filmmaking. Like you can make that time to sit down and finish whatever project it is.
Yeah. And I just on a personal level, I thank you for saying that cuz like people need to hear this shit. Like they need to hear like that they can do it. And I think that's a lot of the thing that like is weird about the film industry is there's so much doubt. Like people have so much doubt and how much does that doubt prevent them from taking that next step as a creator, as a producer, as a director? And I hope that that's part of what this does, even if it's for two people every week. Two people listen to what you have to say and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go make that project. Cole did it. I'm going to do it too. Because sometimes we just need to see an example, right? That's all we need in our lives.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and to be inspired, like I've really tried to like keep being jealous or envious out of my brain. Like when I see somebody, whether I know them or not, doing something that I wish I would have done, that inspires me. And I try to keep my brain in that wheelhouse where it's not, oh, I wish that was me. It's like, oh, that's cool. I should go do something and like that too and push myself like they did.
hmm Yeah, and that's once again positive outlook, time, balance. All of these things are going to propel you to a career in film that will take you as far as I think you want to go. I've been stoked to see all the stuff from Super Regular, man. It's been cool to see the Instagram ads and the little reel you guys put together. I love the name too. It feels like such a Cole Needham name. Uh, just like you guys are nailing the branding with it. But I'm curious for you to like tell everyone about Super Regular, like what it is, what you aim to accomplish with this new venture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in short, Super Regular is a production company. There's nothing that we're trying to reinvent the wheel other than the approach. I think I co-founded this with Taylor Anderson. He's also an Iowan. He's a cinematographer by trade. And we both are kind of at this crossroads of our career where we feel like it's happening. And we've been doing this for a decade each. And we have a lot of answers, but we need to have the team. So with our projects, we want to support not other filmmakers, not just our own. So we have other writers we're collaborating with, other filmmakers that might not know how to produce something, but that's what we do. So Super Regular is, like I said, just a production company, but I think it's the intention we're coming at it. We want ideas to feel fresh, yet we're not trying to reinvent the wheel at the same time. There's formulas for a reason, but I think it's the intention and the voice of the filmmakers that sometimes gets lost in the handshakes of the film business. So it's how do we blend all that together and keep the integrity of the film, create a really good culture to excite people. And there's some studios that are doing it that inspire us. And so I think it's when we see successful movies with a unique voice and make us feel alive again. I think that's what Super Regular is because Taylor and I feel like we're just very regular dudes from Iowa that are very lucky to be in the position that we're in. We get on these really big sets and look around. It's kind of like a pinch me. So we want to just wrap all that in a bottle and keep on making really good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's what the industry needs right now is like people that do it to be at the producing level. Because there's so much like I think there's a lot of excess that happens, right? That you can trim some of the stuff that goes down, like trim some of the fat by having people that are both in creative and in production. And then also, I like this idea of like this collective, of like bringing people in, empowering people. Because like things, when I hear like people talk about culture, I'm like, okay, they're going to be successful. Because really, like when you build that culture, you're bringing people in and giving them ownership, and that's ultimately when you're going to get the best of people is like when they feel like they have ownership and like that they're not just there to do a job. Um, and every time I've worked with you, that's how I felt. Like I felt empowered and like that I had a voice. So I think you and Taylor are going to kill it. But like, how do you see it evolving? And like, what do you hope, 5, 10 years
Yeah.
down the road?
Well, I think to your point is like the culture and just the community building and stuff is like a big thing at the company is like when the cameras wrap, I feel like all of the talent just goes away on every project. And whether I'm working on it or whether I'm directing it, it's kind of frustrating because there's so much creative minds that sit in our homes or at a coffee shop by ourselves. But when we're not on set, we're not creating in the same way. So that's another thing I think that we're trying to like a big goal is like how do we spend time creating when we're not on set because it's those in between of shooting because most being a filmmaker most of your time is spent in front of a computer, not
Mm-hmm.
on a film set holding a camera. So that's a big goal of ours is to have an infrastructure that makes it worthwhile to put your efforts in these projects when you're not on set because it is so daunting to just embark on the script, embark on pre-production. But we want to have that door open that if you don't start, you're never going to get there. So a big thing with that though is lead by example. So I
Mm-hmm.
like to make movies. I don't like to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I try to pride myself. If I catch myself talking too much about a thing, I reel back and I'm like, I need to get some cameras on it if I'm going to talk about this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something with the company that's a goal. But I think the name, like you said, I think the name's really cool. Like if it has some t-shirts and some clothing that comes out of it and stuff, I think it's just all about like living life and feeling alive, but also like feeling is the biggest thing. So I love action sports. I love that type of action films. I would love to do some of that stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to help somebody make a drama movie that's just sad, that makes
Mm-hmm.
everybody cry. I think it's about those moments of the hybrid and authenticity is key. We want to make movies like everybody, but also with that is we come from commercials and no other commercial directors. So we want to have a sustainable company that can do all the things with ease and just keep on making stuff and not make it so hard to get cameras rolling.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you and I are on very similar paths right now. Like we kind of just started production companies at the same time that have like similar, missions that is like we just want to get stuff done, Like I think there's so much resistance in the film industry of like actually making things. Like you need so much permission. And for me, like what we've talked about in my camp is like, hey, we're not going to ask for permission anymore. Like we're going to like go out and we're going to just like make work that speaks for itself. And like the intro I recorded for you for this podcast, I was like, one thing I love about Cole is that he works hard. He's not afraid of the work, but then he just lets the work speak for itself. He doesn't need to like talk about it. It's like the work, And I feel like you guys have really jumped up in levels, even since starting super regular with the projects I've seen. But like one way that I feel like you have made a path in your career is by doing work for free or spec work. That's kind of like how I really got involved with you is like doing the BMW and Honda spec with you. But like, what is it about spec work that you value and like, what does it give you? And you talked to me a little bit in like a pre-call about using specs to your advantage in a way. Can you kind of talk about how you approach that kind of work?
Yeah, I think something maybe I'm like a little knee-jerk reaction, but the word free I would avoid with specs. I think it's an investment
Yeah.
for other directors or DPs or producers or even talent in it. Like it's not free or you're not paying for this thing, you're investing in it. So if you are your company, you need to make a commercial to sell yourself. That's a spec commercial or a
Yes.
short film.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the way you come at it is you are investing in something you can advertise to get yourself the next job,
Yep.
as a piece. Now,
Mm-hmm.
also something that as my ideas have gotten bigger, it's hard to implement risky ideas or trying new shots on a project that's budget or you got client, things like that. But you want to test these things out. So a spec is a really great place to try something that might not work and then
Mm-hmm.
wrap the creative around, wrap the brand around it, and make that a moment that you can go out and test something. And it's not just testing a shot, you're actually shooting a thing and collaborating with people. Or maybe you want to test out collaborating with a new DP or a new camera. That is what that environment's for, is to take those chances.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, if a company was to give you a blank slate, this is your moment to show them what you would make. So I think it's, don't make a Nike commercial that looks like a Nike commercial. Make what you would want Nike to hire you
Mm-hmm.
to do a commercial for them. So I think that's some things that I look at. But I did one recently I want to bring up that was for a dirt bike goggle company. I ride dirt bikes. I got a bunch of stunt friends. I also work with a company that builds drones and custom devices for cameras. They're called Lightcraft. And I was in the shop one day and one of the owners showed me a magnet and he's like, "Hey, you should put this on a dirt bike." So like within 3 4 months, like we had a rig, we had it to the dirt bike, and the shot essentially was an FPV drone, hard mount, looking at the rider, and then on cue it takes off and lifts up. And that's a shot I want to use for a feature film in coming years,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know if it'd work or not. And I guess now I know it does. Now I know its limitations, and I think things like that are a really good thing. Because if you don't sell your spec, it can be disheartening. But
Yeah.
the reality is all these clients already have the budget for their projects. They already did what they need to. So this is a commercial for yourself in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that you checked me on that because I think cost and value are two different things. Like a price and value. Like there's so many different types of value in this industry, and like I'll do stuff just because I'm like, oh, this is a value to me to work with this director, or a value to me to shoot this spec because I need this for my portfolio. It's like a hole I have in my portfolio. I don't have a lot of tabletop work or whatever. I need to do this because it has value. And I talk to directors and producers about that too when they come to me sometimes with like lower budgets. They're like, oh, you might not want to work on this. And it's like, no, there's like a value here that's beyond monetary. And I think that's really smart to think of specs as sort of like not only a testing ground, but like, it's a portfolio piece still, For an instant, just an aside here, we made a spec recently for Millstream Brewing because I like their root beer. And I was like messaging the guy that owned the company on LinkedIn and he didn't respond to me. Then he responded to me as soon as we sent him the spec. And and in a real business kind of way too. Like I had a call with him and I'm about to get off this call and he goes, "By the way, Bruce, I just want to let you know that I really appreciated that you guys didn't give up and you have my attention now." And I was like, "Damn, okay." That was like the first time it really, really worked. And who knows if we'll do anything with them or not. But I was like, okay, that's what spec's about. It's like you're selling yourself. Um, and like what we did was really simple. Sometimes it can be simple. Sometimes, like you said, it can be more complex and you can try these things. But it's really like, I'm glad. I really want people to hear that quote because I try to get people doing specs all the time and they're like, what? And it's like they don't see the value in it. They just see like the lack of funds.
hmm
So,
Well, I think to your point, even like you're doing the whole works from conception to like thinking what a brand might want,
mhm.
collaborating through the filming and pre-production process, post to, and then for you, like if you're emailing them, you're also then doing kind of the sales side. You're pitching it, in a different order, but I think that's something that like you're even getting business experience by trying to get the phone call and stuff, and all that's super invaluable. That especially if you're a newer filmmaker, like you need the seat time of even if you get a no. I think having those conversations with business folk is that's part of filmmaking that a lot of people don't realize.
I mean, you're a business. You're essentially you, Cole, Needham are a business. Then you have Super Regular, that's a business. Like we're all individual businesses, and we have to treat it like that. And really, like what you said to earlier about like what being a filmmaker is. Lately, for me, it's been talking on the phone a bunch. So we talk about this idea of the grind a lot, right? And I think you put it as embracing the suck or the things that no one wants to do. You talked about the late night edits, the insurance calls. This is all too real to me recently, but uh, how do you keep that like that feel burning despite all of these things that nobody's seeing? Everybody thinks Cole just shows up to set and directs and, has the cool job, but really there's so much that you're doing, probably working 10 to 12-hour days most days, even when you're at home. What keeps you motivated moving forward, and what keeps you, embracing the suck?
Yeah, no, I think that's something that should be talked about, that I think just it's Hollywood, so we don't see those things. Rightfully so. Like I don't like to talk about it. Like it's boring.
Hmm.
So I think it's something that we should talk about though, because when you're walking into this and you're trying to grow your career, you have to do these things. And it's the adult thing of just business.
Hmm.
But I think what keeps it going is like having side projects here and there to like if you're trying to tackle a feature, it might take years.
Hmm.
So you still want to get cameras on the ground at times and just kind of always fueling that fire and being a kid again, whether it's hobbies or if you're interested in a topic, you're going to events to research. I think it's getting your head outside the book, but also fully accepting and understanding that if you do not do the logistics, you will never shoot your movie.
Yeah.
And I've had to accept that with projects that are really hard to get off the ground, that if I don't get a budget together or a schedule or these certain things that I don't want to do, I will never shoot it.
Hmm.
So it's the necessary evil that you have to get through that hurdle to make a good movie. And so it's the chasing a really good movie at the end of the day that I want to make
Hmm.
is the motivating factor. But I think it's also just awareness. I've also had a lot of peers that have told me about all these things that I have to do that I didn't think about. But now that I have the understanding and I have some people that are giving me the knowledge, like it's less scary because you only know what you know. But if you start to understand what your hurdles are, it's easier to overcome them.
Yeah. Well said. I think, you know, a lot of people I think get in this industry because it's fun, because they want to be creative, but it's such hard work. And I really believe that, like, and I said this in my intro too, is like, you remind me of like a really, a more intelligent type of blue collar worker. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're a cerebral blue collar kind of guy. Like, you think about the work, you do it strategically, but you're also like, you'll fucking bust your ass, like, and work hard as hell to achieve your goals. And I think a lot of people really, really do have a problem with like this idea that filmmaking is also blue collar, when it comes down to the set. But like, then you have to flip and be a business person when you're not on set. And I think that dual brain is something that people just, they don't think about until they have those mentors saying, "Are you taking meetings? Are you talking to people? Are you marketing yourself? Are you, it's all these things that you don't think about." But I think ultimately, like, the people that do that work are going to go farther, to be honest, and last longer too, because they're like more built for it, because it's hard.
Yeah, no, it's hard. And I don't think it's about like being that brute strength. I think it's about the mentality
It
of
is.
just being unstoppable. And
Mm-hmm.
like you need that for your team. And that should be like the pack mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been very fortunate to work on really big TV shows and really big movies as a crew member, and I've seen it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's hard to understand until you see, directors you really look up to in muck boots, in a cornfield. And then
Yeah.
you see like, oh, that's what it takes to make these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing's glamorous about it other than sitting in the movie theater watching the work of art. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the mentality and it makes it worth it. Yes, I think you said like what keeps you moving. It's like honestly the challenges like kind of motivate me. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And I think
Yep.
it's so rewarding when you get a collective project done with the team and all of like the camaraderie you build, and is not just like by the time I'm already shooting a movie or shooting a commercial or shooting a short, like it's not mine anymore. I feel like we've went through enough prep. You know how it is. Like I like to prep. It's ours by the time we get to set even. So I
Yeah.
think just that entire process like is motivating, and you get the right brains that, are ambitious and know how to work hard. I think
Yeah.
it's fun.
For sure. And well said. I think there's something, when I talk to people like you, I always think about like athletics a little bit in terms of filmmaking. And I think that's why you and I do well in filmmaking, is because we've been parts of teams before. And I think a lot of people just haven't been part of a team, because it's like, I just see it so much. Like, when I see athletes working in film, I'm like, they get it. They get it because they're like individually motivated, but also team focused. which I
Yeah.
think is really great. So, and especially like yourself, like a wrestler, like you very much are a part of a team, but you never do anything with your team. It's like it's you in the ring, but you have to like do well individually to be a part of that team, which I think, goes a long way for work ethic in this. But I think one quick aside, it is the mentality. It's not that you have to be physically strong or like a brute. You have to just be able to like withstand all the ups and downs and uncertainty, really. Um, and just the hard days, can you get through a 10-hour day without losing your mind? Can you get through a 14-hour day without losing your mind? Nobody wants to do the 14-hour days, nobody. But can you guard yourself so it doesn't affect you that much, and take care of yourself? That's important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you got to find your own version of being a badass, and like that doesn't have to be like the tough guy. That could just be mentally solid. That could be always, active. Like you just have to find that in you. But I feel like that's any industry. Like
mhm.
to be successful is not easy, especially in this age with so much competition. Like I think good peers is a big part of it too. Like if you have people you can lean on, like lift you up, and you guys can all knock down, those barriers. I think that's huge. But also with the sports, we think we've talked about it before, but I think the winning aspect, like knowing what it feels like to win, is such a cool thing. And it doesn't have you don't have to be an athlete. Like you could win an art competition
Yeah.
or a dance competition, or, but I think that feeling of winning is something too that like if I get a green light on a thing, that's what it feels like. Is like I just want to race, I just want a wrestling match. So I think that's something you chase just, subconsciously. I don't think that's really a conscious thing. You never should chase the win. Like just do the work, it'll come to you.
Hmm.
But with that being said, it does feel really good to, win sometimes.
So, I've worked on one thing with you recently, Cole, which was, basically a sizzle reel for a documentary, um, called Ruts. Can we just talk about just a basic overview of what Ruts is? Because I want to contrast Ruts a little bit with the feature that you're in development with, and kind of talk about how those two things are a little bit different in their approach. Um, so with Ruts, like that's a passion project that you really cared about. You felt compelled to tell the story, and then what happened, and how did that sort of face you with some doubt?
Yeah, I mean, so this is a project I've been wanting to tell since I was like 18. I had the cast that was down to be the subject matter. It's a pitch deck that I just kind of always float around that when I have time, I'll shoot this. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going anywhere. And an opportunity arose where a production company wants to like do a development deal and like go shoot a sizzle and, shoot something. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, perfect. So we did the thing, and then, project is opened up. And I think it goes back to like what we talk about when projects are open, and you want to finish them.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it double dips with being a quote unquote first time director, where, you have people looking down on you, even though it's your idea and it's your people, your contacts, your project, all that you're bringing to these people of service, and you want to collaborate. It's not much of a collaboration sometimes when you
Mm-hmm.
make these deals. Sometimes you're just work for hire, and it turns into kind of client work where you're now making your story for them to then take out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's okay. I think that's something. It's business. That's the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the frustrating part is in this phase of like trying to establish yourself as a name is you get questioned more than you would probably want.
Yeah.
But that just goes back to like where we talk about if you're confident and you're creative, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, frustrating part with this project specifically was that once it got ready for pitch and sizzles done and everything, the production company just lost interest in their strategies with it. So now we're in a situation where I've put a lot of time and effort, and even you've shot the heck out of this thing, and post has done editing, and
Mm-hmm.
cast has given up their time and their stories to us. But now because of business, projects get halted,
Yeah.
and
Does,
now you get in a crossroads, which makes it tough.
and I first of all, like I'll preface this like thank you for being vulnerable about this, but like did that fill you with doubt? How did you deal with that? And then moving forward with like the feature script that you've done with Shane, how is that a direct contrast from like the Sizzle project? Like, how has that given you more hope or shown you that, ultimately, like if you have the passion, you have the story at heart, like you're going to be successful eventually. But like talk about that sort of like, ebb and flow of filmmaking where you have something, you're like, oh, okay, I got some development, like sizzle, and then it dies, sort of, right? Or we won't say it dies, it halts. And then you have this other thing that you're getting a lot of really great notes from, and people are really impressed with what you're bringing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a reminder to keep kicking. You keep on pushing, and not every project's going to work out perfect because it's personalities more than anything. Like the other project, had it been with other folks, it might be in a different case. But had it not been with these folks, I probably wouldn't have shot the sizzle. So
Mm-hmm.
being very self-aware of like, at least we shot it.
Yeah.
There is that benefit. Now, what I learned to not do is sometimes you just don't need to make partnerships early on.
Yeah.
And you as an individual, and I'm a Midwest kid that grew up in a town of 700 people with no industry members and contacts when I moved to LA. And there is value if you have a good idea and you're a good filmmaker to not get caught up on that stuff. So it doesn't matter where you came from necessarily. It matters what you're doing today.
Yeah.
And you can find those people that will respect your value and your projects. But it's navigating that, I think, is what I've learned the most of, is like always be striving for the person that cares about the stories and that will give you the time of day and value you.
Mm-hmm.
And they might not be the most popular person or the coolest person in the room, but sometimes the genuine side is really just what you have to ring through.
Yes. And I think that's, once again, really important for people to hear, because ultimately this is a business of people, but it's a business of people. So there's two things at play there: the business and the people. I think if you focus on the people, you're going to be successful. If you get downtrodden by the business, this industry can eat you alive real quick. Real
Mm.
quick. And we don't want that. Nobody wants that. So it's best to like know who you are, know what you're trying to do. And so what for you personally, like Cole, like what do you remember when things like that happen about yourself? Like what do you tell yourself, like in the room by yourself, like at night when you're about to sleep and you're a little stressed because this project didn't go where you want? What do you say? How do you keep yourself focused?
I think I just remind myself that like I'm just a kid from Iowa, that like the fact that I get to be a filmmaker could be enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a blessing. Now, how far I take it, that's the stuff that lights me up and gets me fired up.
Yeah.
I take that frustration and be like, you know what? Like I can do this. Like this might
Yeah.
have happened today, but I can figure out something else tomorrow. And then like look how far I've already made it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something is you two, like we grow up in an industry or a community where like doesn't have this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to say, hey, we're gonna be filmmakers, there's a lot of doubt and a lot of just question marks. And especially like then you work in LA and you're around like kind of everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's related to somebody or they've done something and stuff. And you could sit back and be like, oh, they're better than me and hold yourself back. But instead you got to just celebrate your uniqueness, and your journey is your value.
Speaking of that, what's in the works for you? Kind of wrapping up here. What's in the works for you for 2026? And what have you learned from prepping for those projects now? Is there anything you want to share? Valuable lessons?
Yeah, I have a feature documentary that I've been working on since last summer. Um, pretty intense schedule, pretty gnarly shooting. Like we've shot, over like 40 days. Um, it handles the subject matter of homelessness, substance abuse, and following the journey of somebody who had an amazing career in racing and lost it for many reasons. And so that's been something that's been, turned into a passion project, turned into a project, which I hope will get out there to the world and really impact people. But yeah, that's my 2026 starting it out. Will be directing this documentary, spending some time in the editing room, and documentaries are made in post. So be navigating that one. And then I've got this action comedy movie that, I push it every day and wait until we get to shoot it.
Yeah. Well, I'm confident it will happen for you eventually. I think it's having had the chance to read the script and see in some of the materials, I think it's a really great story that, yeah, I won't hype you up too much. I've been hyping you up this whole time, but I think it's a story that like is a completely accessible action movie, which I think there should be more of, can we make the action movie for, I don't know what number you guys are thinking, but I'm always interested in like, can we make an action movie for like 25 million or less? You know, I like those. I like those small things that people can stretch the dollar and make it exciting and make it a human story, but with some spectacle. I think that would be cool. But kind of wrapping up here, like, you've done such a good job of imparting wisdom, like really, that this question is sometimes hard, but is there like something that's really stuck with you through your career that you want to share with people? Something someone's told you, something that you have written on the desk, anything like that, that really on those days where it does get difficult, not that you ever think about quitting, because I just don't think that's in you, but like those days where you are hitting that wall, you're tired, you got to keep going. What do you think about? What do you put in the brain to keep you moving forward?
Yeah. There's this movie called Win Win. It was a wrestling movie with Paul Giamatti. I don't know if you saw it. Indie movie. It was a pretty good movie, but there's a quote in it that has this guy and like Paul Giamatti's like asking this wrestler, like, how'd you do that? And this 16-year-old kid just looks at him and says, whatever the fuck it takes. And like it catches Paul Giamatti's character in his place, and he's like, doesn't know how to respond to it. And then he just calls that move and the drill for everybody. All right, do whatever the fuck it takes. And then he tells the wrestling team that. So that's kind of my mentality, is like any day that it's hard, and it's always going to be hard, is like find out whatever it is it takes that day to get through it and cross that finish line. I don't have anything like super fancy or, anything like groundbreaking, but just determination, and you'll figure it out. It's not going to be easy. So I have to remind myself. I get frustrated a lot, but just got to remind yourself like why we do it. We signed up, like I've started the journey. Like I definitely don't want to stop kicking until I've seen a handful of these things through, and hopefully it'll be a lifetime of making some movies.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Cole Needham. I'm Bruce James Bales, and that's a take.